Hi guys, welcome to Mr. Affair's 30-day sketching and drawing challenge. So this is day one. We're going to be concentrating on some isometric cubes. We'll just do some normal cubes. We'll maybe play around with putting some openings on those cubes as well. If you're looking for a bit more of a challenge, we'll be doing some isometric crates. So to begin with, let's just jump straight into this. So to begin with, for an isometric cube, we're only looking at two types of lines. So we're looking at a vertical line and a 30-degree line. So first time around, let's just practice those two lines. So in the corner of my pad here, I'm just going to draw a rectangle. I'm going to divide that into two boxes now. So I've got two boxes. In the left-hand box, I just want you to practice drawing vertical lines. So straight up and straight down. Now, try and make them parallel to your edges. Try and make them parallel to each other, because it's one of the key things we need to be able to do to draw a successful isometric cube. You can do this with a ruler if you've got one. You can do it freehand, which is what I'm doing just now. But just practice drawing those vertical lines. Now in the other square, I want you to practice doing a 30-degree line. So what does 30 degrees look like? Well, this, you could say, is a right angle. Got a right angle down in the corner here. 45 degrees, well, that would be half of that, wouldn't it? So if I go from corner to corner, there's sort of 45 degrees. I want to come down just below that. So think about this space being divided up into three. I want 2/3 of that space. That would be 30 degrees, 15 degrees. So something like that. So I'm going to go with that as my 30-degree line. And then I'm just going to do the same in this square. Practice drawing my 30-degree lines parallel to each other. Again, you can do this with a ruler if you've got one. You can do it freehand, as I am doing just now. Okay, so your lines there should be parallel to each other, meaning they're not getting closer to each other as they go along. And really try and concentrate on getting a straight line. One of the things that you might be doing when you're doing this is keeping your hand on the desk. So when you draw, you're maybe drawing a curved line. Okay, so just lift your hand up off the table slightly and try and really get straight lines. Right guys, so a little bit of a practice there, straight lines and 30-degree lines, that's what we're going to be using today. So we're going to jump straight in and do our first isometric cube. So I'm going to do this freehand, I'm also going to do it with a ruler. I'll start off freehand. So first line of my isometric cube, I'm going to go with one of my vertical lines, straight up and straight down. Now, when you're drawing this out, try and use a nice light line to begin with. We'd call that a construction line, just in case you're making any mistakes. It's much easier to rub out than a really dark, heavy line. So, my first 30-degree line, I'm just looking across here. That's the kind of angle that I've decided on. So, something like that. My next line, going to be parallel to this. It's really important that we're getting our lines parallel. I'm going to go with something like that. Same again on the other side. When you're drawing your lines on the other side, imagine these two lines being mirrored across. So it's the same kind of angle going up here. Try and keep it symmetrical. So there's my next two lines. So quite often, when people are drawing isometric cubes, I see this mistake all the time. I really hope you don't make it at home. So both our sides should be vertical lines, absolutely parallel to the one that's in the middle here. The common mistake that I see a lot of people making is, because of drawing these two lines, and because it's a cube, they think, this line must join up to that one. So if I go ahead and do that, we end up with a sort of wonky end to our box. What we really want to do is another vertical line straight up and straight down. So following you want to be parallel to the center line, so straight down here. Same again on the other side. I'm just going to go parallel to that middle line. I don't mind if you've got little tails hanging off your lines here. That's normal. So don't worry if you have little tails, and try not to feel like you've got to join up the ends of these lines. Straight up and straight down. So 2 more lines and our first isometric cube is finished. So my next line is going to come from here, and because we're only using 30-degree lines, I know it has to be 30-degree line, so it's got to be parallel to this line, so straight across again. And from here, this is the other mistake that I commonly see people making when they're drawing isometric cubes, is they want to join this corner to the end of this line, and if we do that, we end up with a bit of a wonky hat on it again. So instead of doing that, we want to go 30 degrees across, parallel to these lines as well. So away we go, like so. Just grab my rubber. So that would be our first isometric cube. Now, if you're not quite getting that right, practice it a few times. Get them so that your lines are nice and parallel, and you're hitting these 30-degree marks across your page, and that this line's parallel to this line, parallel to this line, this line's parallel to this line and this line, and your 3 vertical lines are all parallel. Once you're doing that, you'll be ready to move on to the next stage, which I'm going to show you just now. So just go through another isometric cube. This time we're going to increase the difficulty a little bit. So we're going to create an opening on this. So by that I mean it's not going to be a solid cube, there's going to be an opening on it. So it could become a sort of table, I suppose, might become a stool, that kind of thing. So I'm just going to create an opening here. So again, all I'm using is vertical lines and 30-degree lines. So I'm going to come straight up here, trying to keep it parallel to my vertical lines. I'm going to come across here, keeping it parallel, and I'm trying to create the illusion that it's maybe got legs, a little sort of side table or so. So when I come down here, I'm trying to keep my legs the same thickness. I might do the same again on this side. So sketched where the opening wants to be on one side, but of course if this was an opening, you see a bit of depth going into this. I'm just going to add that in. Again, it's a 30-degree line, parallel to the lines that I've got already. And straight up. Same again here. Straight up. So you can see now, it gives the illusion of a sort of table here. Thinking I might just see a bit of this other leg coming in, so I'm going to sketch that in. If there was a leg here, it'd be something like this, it would come down. Now, you should have been drawn both your cubes with a nice light construction line. I've done mine a little bit heavier than I normally would, just so it shows up. Whoops. So I'm just going to go ahead and add my bold outline now. So if you've been in my classes before, you've maybe met my little pet Boris the Spider. I'm just going to use this as a little recap on creating a bold line around some of your shapes. So I want you to imagine, there's Boris the Spider, he's crawling all over my shape. Any edge that Boris crawls to and climbs over, that would become a dark line. So if he crawled along to here and crawled over there, I would still be able to see him, so that line remains light. This line would remain light, and actually on the cube, it just becomes a dark outline. So the idea behind the bold outline is that it makes your drawing stand out a little bit better on the page, and when you've been using construction lines, that the bold outline then becomes more bold, more dominant, and it makes you see the drawing a little bit better. So it makes your drawing stand out, gives it a little bit of depth. So same again for this one, but it gets a little bit more complicated on this. Obviously I've got openings, and this is where the Boris the Spider thing works out quite well. And as I say, it gives you drawing a bit more depth. So again, this would be a dark outline, dark outline, dark outline. So when you've got to think about it here is if Boris was crawling up this leg here, he'd crawl around here. This would be dark, this would be dark, this would be dark. But when he gets to here, crawls from here to here, I'd still be able to see him. So it would be dark up here, dark across here. And likewise up this leg, dark up this leg, and dark across here. And we see a little bit of dark on that leg too. So guys, that was your sort of introduction to isometric cubes. If you've done that, I think I'd be pretty well impressed. So the next challenge, the other thing that I wanted to talk to you about today, considering we're working on isometric cubes, would be isometric crates. So it's not often when you're maybe designing things or drawing things that it's going to be as blocky as a cube. So useful things to be able to draw, but the cube shape is very useful when we come to something called crating out. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about crating out. You'd use crating out for a slightly more complex shape than what we've got here. So that's, if you're looking for a little bit extra challenge, that would be your extension task for today. So again, going to start off with a simple isometric cube. So when I'm crating out, let's say I'm going to do a chair or something. When I'm crating out, I'm thinking about the proportions of the chair, how tall it is versus how wide it is, and how deep it is. So, or as I say, think of the box you would get that thing in for Christmas. What size would that box need to be? And that's what you're looking at when you're crating something out. So I'm just going to start off with a box here, an isometric cube, keeping it nice and light. So we've got a nice construction isometric cube here. I'm going to go for a sort of simple dining chair, I think. I'm going to try and maybe put some curves on it, perhaps. Something that we've not done yet, lots of linear lines. So we'll maybe try and give you guys a bit more of a challenge. So actually up here, I find this quite useful when I'm drawing something a bit more complex. I'm going to put a sort of side view of my box here, and I'm going to draw on this side view what I want my chair to look like from the side, which I can then transfer from here onto there. So it'll give me a bit of a better idea. So I'm going to go for a sort of angled back. I'm going to have my legs come in a little bit. I'm going to have my seat about the halfway point. Now I do want to put some sort of curve in here. So what I'm going to do is actually put my curve something like that. So we've got a little side view of what I want my chair to look like. So rather than trying to design it on an angle here, I've designed it on an elevation. Makes it a bit easier for me. And then I'm going to start transferring some of that information that I've got here onto here. So the first thing I'm going to do is look where my seat level is, and it's about halfway. So I'm just going to sketch that halfway point on like so. Then I'm looking at my little sketch here, so the back comes in a little bit and it changes direction at the same level as my seat here. So from here, I'm coming from the corner down to my seat level. That's the back of my seat. So it's angling in, same as my drawing up here. And then it sort of angles back down to that bottom corner. I'm going to put that seat level in, I think. So this line comes down parallel to this line. So that's what I'm doing here. Come down parallel like so. Gets to my seat level. And then it, on here, it goes straight across the middle, sort of parallel to the top and bottom lines. So again, that's what I'm looking at here. I want to go parallel to the top and bottom lines here. Quite a common mistake that people will make when they're drawing sort of like this on an isometric is they'll just go flat, and it makes their drawing look a little bit weird. So make sure that you're still using your parallel lines. So it's going to go across like so. It actually comes straight down here. And then this is where I've got the curve kind of shape. So the curve reaches its middle, or its top uppermost point right in the middle here. So, and it's about that far down from my seat. So I'm just going to try and put this curve in, aiming for it to peak at the top there, and then just glide back down to that corner, giving me a bit of depth there. So I've managed to sketch my chair on the side here. The next thing I'm going to do is project these lines across to give my shape some depth. So this line's going to go across parallel to what we've got already. I'm going to take this middle line across as well. Now actually, I've just got to remember that this comes in a little bit from where it would on the edge. So I want to come in again here, about the same angle as this. From this point, it goes back down to this corner, so it'd be the same on the back side of this shape. So comes down to this point, hits this point, goes down to that corner. So same again here, down into that corner. From here, I'm actually thinking this looks a little bit uncomfortable with this sharp edge, so I'm actually going to just round this corner off. Now, from here, this edge I would project across, keeping it parallel to my lines that I've got already. And from here, if I draw a line across here to see if I'd see any bit of the corner here, and I wouldn't, it's hidden by this. So that's actually my little isometric chair finished. But the last thing I would do to that would be to put my bold outline on it. So that's what I'm going to do just now. So it wouldn't be a bold line here, it would be a bold line across here. Now actually I've just noticed I'm missing a line here, so from here I'd also be wanting to project that line across, keeping it parallel to the lines I've got already. So that'd be the underneath side, and actually that's quite interesting with your Boris the Spider lines. When you're coming up here, obviously Boris would crawl around here, he would disappear. Once he gets to around about to this point, he would crawl onto there and I would still be able to see him. So this bold line should be bold up to about here, and then it's just going to fade off. This is going to be a bold line. be my children come back in from a walk. So I'm going to call that about a day for this video. What I'll be looking for is some isometric cubes. If you manage to do the isometric cubes, you can move on to an isometric cube with an opening. And if you successfully manage that, you could go to trying to do an isometric crate and creating something a little bit more complex inside that crate. Good luck, everybody. I'm looking forward to seeing what you get up to. Please feel free to message me with any questions, and please try and post me examples of your work. Looking forward to seeing them. Good luck, everybody. Cheerio. Bye-bye.